So let's jump in. So y'all might have heard about this case, super important case. It got some media attention and then it's kind of fallen off. But at the beginning of this month, April, there was a tragic death. A young man, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, out of Frisco, Texas, outside of Dallas, I believe. He and a white classmate of his, Austin Metcalf, got into an altercation. And Carmelo Anthony told him, "Don't put hands on me." Actually, I think what he said was, "Touch me and see what happens." And the confrontation continued, but it ended up tragically with Austin Metcalf losing his life, right? And since there's been all kinds of uproar about it. Austin Metcalf is a white young man. Carmelo Anthony is a black young man. There's racial dynamics here. There's all kinds of things going on. Carmelo Anthony's bail was set at $1 million, then it was lowered, and so he was able to get out. And there was an uproar from a certain segment. We'll talk about that was uproar and outraged about that. Carmelo Anthony's defense. There was a GoFundMe that raised some money, but there was all kinds of misinformation being spread. The family was experiencing threats, just all kinds of wild things, right? And nowhere in there was the let's see what happened. We got to wait and see. The type of patience and deliberation that we are accustomed to seeing when a tragic death happens and the racial dynamics are reversed, right? When a white person takes the life of a black person, it's always wait and see what happens. We don't know what happened. Wait and see. Let the system play out. Whoop de whoop, all that, right? And again, just like when that happens, when the racial dynamics are reversed, we end up losing the tragedy of a lost life, right? I do think anytime that somebody loses their life, it's a tragedy. I want to be clear about that. So anyway, here we are. It's been super contentious. Like I said, it got some media attention and it's fallen off, I think, because it's just not something that folks are talking about. You got to be nuanced about it. And the more that comes out, the more it's like, yeah, man, self-defense goes both ways, right? And if you just feel that you're threatened, it goes both ways. And so there's the powers that be, particularly white folks in America, aren't really trying to entertain that idea. They're really not trying to entertain that idea, and that's a really deep thing. But a certain segment, these white folks are out here doing all kinds of wildness. And one of those wild displays was Bruce Carter. Bruce Carter was at this protest. Bruce Carter is a Dallas entrepreneur and political activist, and he was there. He was a black man, but he was talking to Jake Lang, and Jake Lang is a January 6th protester who organized a Protect White Americans rally, particularly after the lowering of bond. And Bruce Carter calls Jeff Metcalf and puts him on the phone with Jake Lang. And I want y'all to see what is happening here, right? What is happening? So let me bring this up. I want y'all to see the interaction that they have. Here we go.
Yes, sir. What can I do for you?
Jeff, first of all, my entire heart rests in your hands. I would be in my position, not even if somebody even knew your son, but somebody that shares the same understanding. I grew up as a 17-year-old young white man too, and I grew up in fear of my life around black people because they were killing and robbing people around me all the time. And I don't understand, as I was a father, you could sit idly by and not condemn the culture that killed your son. There is an epidemic problem in this country, and your voice could be one of the loudest voices in this country country, but you have chosen to recoil out of fear and continue the suppression. Why will you not stand with me and with the rest of the people? We're not calling for racial divide. We're not calling for hatred. We're saying 350,000 attacks on white people by black people a year in this country is wrong. Why can't you stand that and say with that? Maybe you can. Would you be willing to stand by me in a press conference or in an individual interview and talk about this issue that is larger than Austin at this point? God rest the beautiful young man's soul that would have been one of our strongest voices if he was still alive today.
Are you done?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, my turn to speak. You are part of the fucking problem, my friend. You're trying to create more race divide than bridging the gap. I do not condone anything you do. You do not have any fucking...
That's called white guilt.
No, let it talk.
My son, let me finish. I give you your time. You take my son's face off your website. I am not associated with you.
You're creating more Austin Metcalfs with your weakness, sir. You are creating more Austin Metcalfs with your weakness.
You are being weak. I gotta be honest with you about that, sir.
You're being weak. Condemn your son's killer and the culture that caused it.
Hey, Jeff.
All right, yo. So we're gonna stop there. Listen. Woo! Where do we begin with this hot mess? Good God. Good God. All right, first, I'm a father. And I cannot imagine the wild things that I would be doing if something happened to one of my children. The pain, the grief, and just the ways that I would be acting, right? It's hard to imagine being at your best when you're facing such enormous grief and hurt and despair. And so certainly I want to send my condolences to Jeff Metcalf. I know Austin Metcalf had a brother, all that. I want to send my condolences to Carmelo Anthony and his family. That's wild to go through. From all accounts, that young man was distraught and genuinely felt like his life was in danger, and he did what he felt like he had to do, right? It is tragic all the way around. And just like the way we politicize these moments is important. And notice, I'm not saying that we shouldn't, because I believe politics are involved in all of this. And we can see that here, right? But let's not lose track of the humanity of that. A father is mourning the death of his child, and another father and another mother is mourning the death of her child. I don't want to reduce that, and that they're going through that, right? But this dude, Jeff Lane, what a slime ball. What a goofy ass dude, right? So one, you can just tell that this ain't about Austin Metcalf. To him, this ain't about nothing but perpetuating vile, just outdated racist trope stereotypes about blackness to conjure up white paranoia, to fill some sort of hole he has in his soul. It is wild to talk to a father like that, to call a father weak after losing, less than a month from losing his son, from being thrown into the public spotlight nationally in such a way, and then to have the audacity to call that man weak blows me. But especially, you're talking to another white man. You're supposed to be in community with this dude. You're supposed to have his back. White men, we ain't even getting that shit right. That is wild. We are not even getting it right, where we're not even holding each other down. And I want to point this out. That's how you know there's nothing beneficial about whiteness. There's nothing about community. There's nothing about connection. There's nothing about care. There's nothing about compassion. There's nothing about solidarity that whiteness can facilitate. It is only about fear. It is only about disconnection. It is only about riling up people to inflict harm against people of color. That is all whiteness is about. That is why we cannot find community around whiteness. And this clip demonstrates that. This dude and so like there's that piece, right? And I think that that's a super important piece to talk about. But now let's step back and actually present an analysis, right? He's just wrong. Black people are not more violent than white folks. As a matter of fact, they're less violent. The most violent group of people in this country are white men. The people who are most likely to die from gun violence are white men via suicide. So we are so just eroded inside that we're hurting, we're killing ourselves. We're literally saying, remove me from the face of this planet because it just ain't worth it. And then we got goofies like this Jeff Lang dude, who is out here on Sinners just came out. I saw Sinners. Jeff Lang is the definition of the vampires off of Sinners. 100% full stop. That dude is a vampire. And that is what whiteness does. Whiteness is vampiric. I don't know if that's a word. We just made it up, but that's what it's going to be. It is vampiric. It steals your energy. It steals your joy. It steals your connection. And that is why it is so dangerous. So dangerous. And so I want to invite us, to do what Austin Metcalf's father did, what Jeff Metcalf did, and call that out. Tell him, you're a part of the problem. He uses some choice language, some language I appreciate. I ain't gonna use it on here because I don't, I want to post this on social media and stuff. I don't want to be flagged. But kudos to Jeff Metcalf for refusing that call. That would have been a really easy sort of like, this community might be able to understand me, to get me to turn your anger, your hurt into that anger that would move people towards whiteness. Kudos to Jeff Metcalf for in that moment not doing that. Now, I also want to be clear. There's some I don't know Jeff Metcalf. I don't know a whole lot about him. I don't know his politics. I haven't been able. If somebody out there knows a little bit, feel free to send me an email. I would love to learn more. But I do know that Jeff Metcalf was also in the news a couple weeks ago because he showed up to Carmelo Anthony's family's news conference after having a restraining order put against him, right? And that's not a good look. That's not a good look. And again, this man just lost one of his sons. And so I don't know what I would do. I don't know, but I know that it's that we are complex beings. Humans are complex, right? And so the idea that you can do things that are in violation, but also stand and reject further violation, it's something that I think here on the Antidote we can embrace. We can understand that we can hold both truths at the same time. So yeah, that's wild. And I do think we need to understand that this is an opportunity. There was an opportunity for Jeff Metcalf to collude with whiteness, and he refused. He said, nah, I reject that language. I reject that message. He told them to take his son's name and image off the website, that they weren't going to be able to use that in that way. And I can rock with that. I also think it demonstrates a need to have this conversation. We're ill-equipped to have the conversation about how race is informing this, right? How is it informing what we're doing, how we're understanding what happened? It speaks to our need for racial literacy, and that our racial literacy would allow us to connect. Increased racial literacy would allow us increased connection. Because again, this is what whiteness is. Jeff Lang is whiteness. That dude is a slime ball. If anybody's got some connections to him, I would love to chop it up with him. I would love to have a conversation. Clearly he's hurt. Clearly he needs a hug. It is my job as a fellow white man to go get them because he's causing harm, right? That's harmful. That's wildly inappropriate. That's about the most disgusting thing that I've seen in a long, long time. Shame on you, Jeff Lang. You're a goofy. And I'll tell you that to your face, my guy. I'll tell you that to your face.